This is the Mastermind for Business podcast, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about the importance of language and the language that you use as a business owner. Let's get under the way with that right now.
If you want more time, money, freedom, and have a business that's not reliant on you, then you're in the right place. Each week, Mark Creedon, along with some of the very best business minds in the world, will take you through simple, practical steps you can take to create the business you always wanted. From his own practical experience, Mark will show you how to work less, make more, and get the business you always wanted, the one that you deserve. Now here's your host, one of Australia's most sought-after business coaches, Mark Creedon.
Hi, I'm Mark Creedon. Welcome to the latest edition of the Mastermind for Business podcast. This podcast is designed for you, the business owner who just feels like you're a little bit trapped, right? You've got a business that's totally dependent on you and you love what you do, but you'd love to be able to get back to the point where you did what you love, the reason you started the business in the first place, which is to give you more time and more freedom. It's to help you to scale your business so that you really do have a business and not just a job. That's what we're all about in this, and that's what we're going to do right now. Let's get that underway. Let's welcome back Nick. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Nice to have you back. So Nick's been away on leave because he's had, his fiancée Dee had a little boy, Connolly.
I didn't do much work.
No, that's right. You were just there for it. So, mate, let's start with how is Connolly?
Good. Sleeping, healthy. Yeah, can't complain.
Can't ask for anything more than that.
That's all right.
That's amazing. So good to have you back in the studio. Nick, of course, is the co-host of the program, but also looks after all of our video work, as he does for everything across Mastermind. And in fact, the Metropole Group, he is our video director, and it's always a buzz to have him back. So, mate, this is awesome. Nick, I was talking to somebody the other day about the concept of language and the importance of the language that you use as a business owner. I started thinking about it around using it as being like an employer, but I think what we're going to talk about today applies whether it's with your team, whether it's with your business partners, whether it's with your alliance or referral partners, whatever it might be. I think this language is really important. For those of you who've read Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, you'll see that there's a link to this, because what I'm talking about now is the language that we use around the purpose of our business, the why we're here. So a number of episodes ago, we spoke about how do we get your team to do, more of what you want them to do. And in that episode, we spoke about the fact that they actually need to see a purpose behind it. They need to understand their why, right? Why do they come into work every day?
Yeah, they need to be involved.
Right.
Part of the process.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we talk about it, involved and motivated. We've spoken before. I remember when I had the opportunity, I'm going to name drop here, I had the opportunity to share the stage with Wayne Bennett. For those of you who don't follow the NRL, Wayne's probably, he's regarded as the super coach, probably the greatest rugby league coach of all time.
Crypt keeper.
Yeah, that's right. So I had the opportunity to share the stage, and somebody asked him a question, how do you motivate your team? And it was interesting because his response was, I don't. I don't. They motivate themselves. I can inspire them. I can lead them. I can care for them. But I actually have to create an environment that makes them want to be motivated and want to then go ahead and do the work to motivate themselves.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, that's really the same place in your business, in a workplace. It's hard to motivate people. You can inspire people, you can encourage people. But if you really want people to be motivated to work for you, you've actually got to give them something to be motivated about.
You've got to give them the ammo to then find that motivation themselves, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of that comes with language. So let me give you an example. I was working with a business not long ago, and I went around and I asked some of the senior team, what's the purpose of the business? Not how does it serve its clients. We know what the purpose is externally, but what's the purpose internally? Like, why do you come to work every day? Why do you do what you do on a daily basis? And the answer that they gave was they didn't really know. The only thing they could think of was that they were there to make the stakeholders or the shareholders more money.
Right.
And so I thought, wow, that's fascinating. We need to pull that apart. Because if I was to say to you now, the reason you do what you do is just to make the people that you do it for money, and that's the only reason you do it. That's kind of the sole purpose. It's not really going to motivate you, is it?
No. And I think it gets to those points too, when the chips are down, when things aren't going exactly how they want them to.
Yep.
That becomes more prevalent than ever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That there is nothing else there for them.
Yeah.
That it is purely that they're only doing it for someone else. Now, if
Yeah.
they don't feel involved, or they don't feel motivated, they don't feel like they're on the same path, or they're part of the team,
Yeah.
when it comes to the end goal or the objective,
Yeah.
then they're always going to, in those bad times, they're always going to fall back on that, well, what am I doing here?
The fallback or the lean back position, isn't it? I was listening to Taki Moore now. Taki runs a program in Black Belt that we belong to as coaches. It's a coaching program for coaches. Great program. And Taki was giving this great presentation where he said he was going through this process with his team, and he suddenly realized that he had to give them something more than your job is to make this rich white guy an even richer white guy, right? And coming to that realization in this particular company that we were working with, the realization that I had was that it's exactly how the senior people in the business thought. And imagine this, Nick, if that's how the senior people in the business think, imagine how the rest of the workers in the business think,
Right.
the rest of the team.
Yeah. Even less important.
Right. If you can't convince your senior people that they're really important to you and integral to you. I had a conversation, and they're going to get a giggle out of this, because they chatted to me just yesterday about the fact that I'd mentioned them in a podcast, and when I mention them, you'll know who I'm talking about. They were quite chuffed that they'd been mentioned in podcasts. So I'm not doing this deliberately, but it's really relevant. I was having a chat with Rachel and Jordan from the Henry Group yesterday.
HBT, yeah.
And we were talking about their future plans, where they want to take the business in the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that really resonated for me with what they were saying was it was around their gross revenue. It was around their net profit. And the third factor that they focused on was how they were going to make each and every one of their team members wealthy.
Yeah.
Wealthy either in terms of money, knowledge, experience, work-life balance, whatever it might have been.
Mm-hmm.
But that was actually, if they were looking at the three pillars of how they were going to grow their business and the three outcomes they wanted to achieve, that was the third one. And that was equally important to them. So they were essentially saying, yes, we want to get to this big figure, 8-figure business, but they don't want to get to that
And leave their team behind.
at the cost of the team. Yeah.
They want the team to come with them.
So we started this episode talking about language, and I've gone a sort of a long way around it, but where I'm going here is that as a business owner or as a leader of a division, you've got to think about the language that you use. So if you run around talking about you all the time, your assets, your achievements, your holidays, whatever it might be, you'd have to question whether people are going to see that there's a purpose beyond you.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say that you should hide your success.
No, of course not. No.
Right.
Just be a bit humble about it, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. I've just bought a new car. I don't leave it at home. I very proudly drive it to the office.
As you would, as you should.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm proud of the fact that I've achieved this very nice AMG. But for me, it's not, I hope that the people that work for me look at that and go, yeah, that's what I want.
I want an energy.
And I hope that I can show them a way to achieve it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in a position where they look at that and go, he's just full of shit and full of himself, and he's just throwing that around in front of everybody. I worked with a guy years ago, Nick, and we were talking about flying somewhere, and he said to me, we'll both fly to Adelaide. I'm like, yeah, that's great. And he said, well, obviously, when I said we'll both fly to Adelaide, not together, because I'll be in business and you'll be I'm sitting on the wing. And I just thought at the time, what a wanker thing to say. I didn't care. He's the business owner. I was working for him. I fly economy. He flies business. I don't care about that.
But then when shit hits the fan,
Yep.
do you have his back?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? That's the thing is all throughout history, keeping people close to you, looking after those who are close to you,
Yeah.
feeds loyalty, creates loyalty.
Yeah.
Right? Now, it's the same thing as I said before. If he's going to put you in the back while he goes to business class,
Yeah.
instantly, just that little thing that to him probably seems minuscule and nothing in the grand scheme of things. But now, when the chips are down and your back's against the wall, you're not going to have his back.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
That's right. And I want to be really careful here because we're not promoting some kind of, communist, totalitarian, everybody's equal kind of thing. But, we flew the team here from Brisbane. We flew to Sydney fairly recently. It was the whole team. So because it was a whole team, we just couldn't justify a business class expense for the team. So we all flew economy.
Yeah.
And I sat with my team. I would never have done it any other way. That doesn't mean that I don't fly business class, because I do.
Of course.
But it's about the language. And I also think that if I go back to, and it was many, many, many years ago with this flight to Adelaide, if he had said to me, oh, look, I always fly business class. I've got you booked economy. But listen, when we get there, make sure you wait for me and we'll share the car. And, we'd had a conversation, but it was but it wasn't almost. It was just a put down. It was you're
not on my level.
You lowly piece of shit,
Yes.
and I'm just straight.
We're not equals.
We're not equals, right?
Yeah.
We're not equals.
Yeah.
As opposed to, that concept of we may not be equals in terms of management, in terms of the hierarchy, but, I want you
Yes.
to be there.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest compliments somebody ever paid me once was when I was interviewing for the job, and I said, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? And they went, in your shoes. I want your job. Well, come and get it. That's fantastic.
Sure.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So I think as business owners or leaders within a business, we've got to be really careful about the language we use. And we've got to make sure that the language we use isn't all about me.
It's the type of language that you're using, right? Because it can be all about me, but it's going back to what you said before in the Wayne Bennett stuff. It's got to be motivating and inspiring by looking at, I want that.
Yeah.
But without, this is what I have and this is what you don't have.
Yeah.
Sort of stuff. So I guess it is a bit of a fine line, because you are allowed to be proud. You're allowed to be happy of your achievements and what you've got and where you've gotten yourself to. But you also don't want it to become a negative experience for others who don't have those things, who aren't in that tax bracket, whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Don't worry. There's times I wish I wasn't in that tax bracket.
I'm sure.
Around tax time especially.
But also, there's people who have things that you don't have.
100%.
People who are in a higher tax bracket, you're not in, right? So,
100%.
so it's a never-ending game, right?
That's right. And I think the big thing is, and I've seen this in so many situations where somebody makes them feel good about themselves by putting down other people.
Yeah.
Like, I feel good about myself because of my achievements, but if I can bring other people along for the ride and we can all achieve it, then for me, that's the holy grail. And it gets back to sort of, what Jordan and Rach were saying, is that, well, we want our team to be successful. I mean, I look at the team that I work with, and I want them all to be successful. I want them all to achieve whatever success is for them. And I want to be a part of that journey. And I'd love for them to sit back in 5 years' time and go, yeah, do you know, I am where I am because Mark gave me the tools, the skills, the resources, or the opportunity to achieve it. And then they picked up and ran with that opportunity. So super careful about language. I think that's probably the takeaway from that one.
Yep.
I think the other thing, Nick, if we're talking about language, I think that we've also got to be careful about the language that we use about different people within business. I remember working with a company a number of years ago, and they had some superstars in the company. And they were when I say superstars, they were in the sales side of the business. And because they were generating income, the focus that went on the sales side of the business as opposed to any other part of the business, the disparity between the two was just outrageous.
You see that quite often, right? And I worked in sales for a long time, and you clearly saw the difference between how the operations team gets treated compared to how the sales team gets treated.
Yeah.
And the celebrations, the small wins, and those sort of, I guess, pats on the back are few and far between for those in operations and those, answering phones, booking appointments, that sort of stuff, where sales get all the big hoorah But, in saying that, it's one of those things where even in a sales environment, you can still be treated extremely indifferently to someone who's, say, the top salesman.
Yeah, sure. And you're right. You can get that disparity either between departments, if you like, or within departments. So it could be inter or intra. But I think that the thing about it is that what we've got to realise is we've got to celebrate. We talk about celebrating wins all the time in Mastermind, and we talk about celebrating successes. So here in the Metropolitan group of companies, we have a sales team essentially with a bell. Mm-hmm. They ring the bell. But the ringing of the bell for us is for an achievement for anybody in the business. Yeah. So if we've got, one of our property managers that's leased a particularly difficult property, or, we've got the receptionist that's resolved a particularly difficult issue for a client, somebody's booked an appointment for somebody they've been trying to get across the line for some time, they all ring the bell because it's about celebrating that success. And I think it's understanding it's a bit like the analogy I often think is like a restaurant. Right? So in a restaurant, the people who are front of house, say the maitre d' in a restaurant, wait staff get lots of public praise.
Sure.
Or the chef gets lots of compliments, right? But the reality is we'd all be eating off dirty dishes if we didn't have a dishwasher.
Correct. Yep.
The kitchen would be full of rubbish if we didn't have a junior that took the rubbish out.
Yeah.
Or in some cases, a sous chef earning their stripes or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying, again, I want to make it really clear, I'm not talking about this egalitarian society where everybody's equal, but I'm saying that just stop and take stock in your business for a minute and think about the language that you use around, is it not focused entirely on you? It's number one. Number two is the language that you use when you're complimenting people, when you're acknowledging success. Do you do that across the board?
Yeah. Yep.
Because you've been in sales, right? And so you know what it's like when you get a good sale and everybody's really happy and everybody celebrates. But I often think about, imagine if you're, say, let's talk about an office environment. Let's say you're an office junior, but the place is clean and neat and everything runs the way it should. It runs like a well-oiled machine. Imagine if you were never complimented for that.
Oh, look, it 100% does happen. And, it's not about, I guess, the job or the task that you're doing. It's about realizing that every human pretty much has the same sense of, or the same need of feeling important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone wants to be wanted. Everyone wants to feel important and needed.
Right. Needed.
No matter what task they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? And just because their task was folding paper, and the other person's task was making 100K, they still probably folded that paper with everything they've got. You know what I mean? So some people, it's not necessarily the end result or how important the job was, but all of it still makes the wheels turn, right? Yeah, they're all a cog. They're all part of it. If that person doesn't fold that paper, that doesn't get done, that person's probably not able to make that 100K.
Yeah, 100%. It's the knee bones connected, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing too, Nick, is if you've got a paper folder in your business, you want them to be the best goddamn paper folder that they could possibly be. And you're not going to get them to that point if they feel like they're just a shit paper folder.
Well, if they sit there and they fold 100 pages or 300 pages once and they do it perfectly and they don't get any compliments on it, well, next time they're going to be a little bit disheartened and they might not fold as well.
It just reminds the listeners, I think, of how powerful language is.
100%. And then, if anyone that has worked in sales, and you would know that to build relationships, to negotiate, to, have any kind of rapport with anyone, whether it be a client, customer, employee, colleague. Yeah. You need to have, inviting language. Yep. Open language. Yep. And you need to be conscious of the fact that everyone is different. And that's not an ability that everyone can have. No. Right? You and I can talk to someone here about something completely different, and that's their interest or whatever, and someone who works completely differently, we can have a same conversation with them in a different way, right? In a different tone, whatever it may be. Yeah. Not everyone has that ability, but I think it's just important to be conscious of the fact that everyone is different, everyone receives things differently, everyone hears things differently, and reacts differently. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what makes the world go round, though. 100%. We're all different. We're all different.
And I think if we're talking about language, the other thing too is that, there's probably two other things. I make a habit of doing two things, and I'm sure I've mentioned this on the podcast before. It's something that I'm unconsciously skilled in, right? I didn't even realize it's just a habit I do every morning. I work in an office, but every morning when I get into the office, I make sure I walk around the entire office and say good morning to whoever's here. If I'm here early and earlier than everybody else, then once I know other people are here, most of the team are here, I'll walk around the office saying good morning to everybody.
Yeah.
Now, I actually didn't even realize, A, that I did that, or B, that it was any value until I was talking with one of our other directors, and they made the comment that one of the things they admire and aspire to is to remember to do that themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other thing that I do is to thank the team. People leave in the afternoon, see a Marco, go, hey, see you, Nick. Thanks for today.
Yeah.
Thanks for, I do that work, whatever office I'm in. And, I didn't realize the importance of that until, we had a new team member who said to me, that's never happened to me. And I sort of go, well, why the hell not? Like that's kind of a given.
And what's the best kind of leader? The best kind of leader is someone who shows leadership, who provides that leadership by doing.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is that as a leader, what you want is, what I would like is to be in a position where people aspire to lead the way I lead.
Yes.
Like that's the greatest compliment somebody could pay me as a leader, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Or somebody who's prepared to say, yeah, I've got your back. I'm prepared to. Our good mate Mick Donaldson from the Australian SAS often talks about leaders that he's had, and he's a patrol leader, so he's a leader himself, and he often says, I've stormed the gates of hell with those blokes.
Yeah, that's right.
So, that would be an amazing compliment to have paid, I think.
100%. I think, those leaders who do lead by example are the ones that receive that kind of loyalty the most.
Yeah, 100%.
And setting the example of using the right language, as you said, or even doing those little things as a leader, that it's contagious.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It rubs off on people.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
And using the right language in the right way can only inspire people to change the way that they say things or change the way that they speak to people as well.
Yeah. So it all sort of feeds down, doesn't it?
100%.
So that's a good reminder, Nick, because we've actually got Mick Donaldson, Sergeant Mick, on some upcoming episodes. So looking forward to having him here in the studio and talking about leadership as well. Today, we've looked at really, I think, the importance of language. Right? Making things all about you, making sure that you're complimenting people, equally, that you're acknowledging, making sure that you're thanking people, and that you're understanding that they want to come along the journey with you, and how you get them to do that depends entirely on the language that you use. Super important stuff. Hopefully that's been of some use to our listeners. Hey mate, great to have you back.
Great to be back.
That's fantastic. Guys, these are the sort of things that we solve for our clients in our Mastermind Business Accelerator program. So if that's something that you would like to get more information on, metropolemastermind.com.au. Love to have a chat with you. If you've liked what you've heard, please like the podcast, subscribe to it. Subscribing makes it easier for others to find us. And if you know someone in small business, professional practice who you think benefit from listening to these things, please share the podcast with them, because that helps us on our mission to help as many business owners as we possibly can to build a business and not just have a job. Thank you, Nick. We're going to chat to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
In the meantime, please make sure you spend time with those who matter most. Talk to you next week.